how can non-Arab speakers approach learning the language to understand the Qur'an, inshallah? And what can we do before learning, mastering Arabic to understand the Qur'an? They said they're using multiple kind of translations right now.
I'm gonna talk about Arabic in one of the later classes, so I'll defer part of the question to it. One, I would say, in some ways, Arabs are disadvantaged in knowing Arabic, modern Arabic, because there can often be a kind of compounded ignorance. To understand the Arabic of the Qur'an takes many years of hard work. I mean, this idea that you can learn the language of the Qur'an in a year is just a very dangerous concept in my estimation. The Qur'an is a profoundly subtle book. It lends itself to multiple possibilities, and it takes a really long time. Now, you can get obviously the core messages of the Qur'an, like if Allah says, "Attaqullaha haqqa tuqatihi," any Arab that knows Arabic today would basically understand what that means. I mean, he might not understand that taqwa is a very specifically defined type of word, or he might not understand the derivation of the word from, waqiya, yaqi, wiqaya, which is prevention, and that taqwa is a masdar, and those aspects of it. But they'll get the general meaning of that. But to really understand where you get into a deep understanding of the Qur'an, it takes a lot of work. And there's a reason why it's ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, because ذَلِكَ is for ta'zeem, And one of the things that I learned early on, when I was very young, I was in Mauritania, and I was studying, and I was reading the Qur'an, and I had this, what I thought was an insight into a thing. And I remember I was going to tell one of my teachers, I had this insight into the Qur'an, and he just stopped me and said, no, like, you're not ready to do that. Don't, he just said, "Ittaqillah fi kitabillah." And when they asked Omar what ab was, in Surah Al-Abasa, ab is a word, and he said, "Ayu ardan tuqirruni wa ayu sama'un tudhilluni idha takallamtu fi kitabillah bi ra'yi." Like, what earth would hold me up and what heaven would cover me if I spoke about the book of Allah without knowledge. So we have to have a type of awe for the book of Allah, and just be very careful. What the Ajam has direct access to is the ibadah of tilawa. And so I would say, in terms of learning the Arabic, it's a really important thing, and I really encourage it to everybody. It's one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done in my life, just having access to this incredible legacy of knowledge, and over and above all else, having access to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah. But my own experience, and I guarantee you, there are many times when I've read the Qur'an and I thought I understood it. When I went to the tafsir, there was a completely different meaning than what I was getting from just the Arabic. And somebody asked me, I was in Malaysia last year, and a really, really wonderful Singaporean person there asked me that they had been troubled about the idea that the Qur'an had lacunae. They had taken a course at the university, and they said, in the course they pointed out that the Qur'an can only be understood with tafsir, and they couldn't understand how the revelation of God how it couldn't stand on its own, that it would need tafsir. While the Qur'an definitely does stand on its own as the Book of Allah, it does need commentary. And the reason it needs commentary is because Allah has made it absolutely necessary to have a transmission. In the Qur'an, Allah says, "Innahu dhikrun laka wa liqawmika." It is a reminder for you and for your people. Imam Malik said that verse means a man saying, I heard from my father who heard from his grandfather. That this is a transmitted book. And this is why even to this day, when you learn the Qur'an, you learn it through isnad if you're learning it properly. So you study with somebody who studied with somebody all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ. And so you have chains, every qari has a chain back to the Prophet ﷺ if they learned it properly. And so that's part of the nature of our religion, is that it's transmitted.